Welcome, everyone, to the Fractional Operator, our new podcast here, and of course, brought to you by Hourglass SaaS, which is, to my knowledge, the very first operations platform brought to you by fractional operators for fractional operators. So, built and designed by people that are working in the industries of the fractional service-based company or an individual. So, excited to be here and bring that to you guys, and very excited to be with my old friend Todd Bailey. Todd, what's happening?
I'm not that old, Michael.
No, just old friend,
Yeah.
young friend.
Great to be here. I'm really excited to be part of this. I think it's a brilliant concept to talk more about these sorts of things. It's growing quickly as we
Yeah.
talk. Yeah.
Yeah, so, there's certainly there's other podcasts and other pieces to the fractional community that are out there. But in my book, it's never hurts to have one more voice, to be throwing into the void and try to get information. And more than that, Todd, what I have in mind with this podcast is really like best practice, kind of telling people's story, but also talking about like what works and what doesn't work and how they run their businesses so that either an existing fractional operator or even someone that's not a solopreneur but is running a company and they have other people working for them, or if someone is considering going into being a fractional, which I think we're going to be seeing more and more and more here as the job market changes and the world changes and all the exciting things that are going on there. I just think it's such a great way to really get them information so that they can see how other people are doing it and what's working, what's not working. So I'm excited, man.
I love it.
And
It's a great concept.
yeah, thanks. And to your point, as far as being old, I'm officially not getting ID'd for alcohol anymore. So
The Grays will do that.
uh, you know, it's happened to me probably a good half dozen times in the last few months where I'm like, buying a six pack or whatever. And I'm like pulling my ID out and they're like, no, no, you're okay. I'm like, no, I'm not okay now.
That should be like a new customer service feature where they just ask everybody, even if,
Make sure we ask
because,
everybody.
yeah, now it's like, oh, thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Like, thank you. It's the baby face, obviously. So Todd, for our listening audience, if you don't mind, give us just a little bit about yourself and about your business.
Sure. So I came from a music background and entered corporate America and always kind of maintained some level of creativity in my life, which bled over into things like graphic design and eventually photography and picking up cameras, which then turned into videography. And this sort of expanded the content creation side of things to the point where I didn't feel like corporate America was really my path any longer and decided to kind of go full time with the creative stuff. But because I came from corporate America, I had a really good sense of kind of different industries. I had been in many different industries in my career. And so, having had at least some pulse on how things function in these various industries, and then bringing my content creativity to the table, I started to see sort of this emergence of, wow, there's really a lot of spillover between content and marketing. And this was at the very early stages of the smartphone, which was supposed to put me out of business. Uh, but it turns out that more people creating is a better thing than less people creating.
Mhm.
And having been a creator for a dozen plus years now, um, I like to think that I'm, well learned enough to be an expert at it, at least to some extent. So when you combine that with the marketing knowledge and the corporate experience, I sort of coined myself as a creative thought leader. And that's really where I start with people.
Mhm. And as far as your role in corporate America, what were you doing? Were you operations? Were you sales? What kind of stuff were you doing there?
Done a lot of sales, a lot of different sales, management. Eventually, I was responsible for, I think, as many as 50 to 70 salespeople. So I loved that too because I could kind of tap my creativity to build trainings and things like that.
Mhm.
But I couldn't escape the creative side no matter what I've done, whether I'm working in construction or selling cars or anything I could do to be creative. It was always a need. So, yeah.
Yeah, so you're bringing that in. And so, one of the question I definitely want to circle back around on the sales aspect at some point in this conversation because that's something I really want to educate, especially the people that are considering becoming fractionals, like how important your ability to sell becomes when you're a solopreneur, right? So I want to circle back to that, but before we do, did you started doing the creative side first, and that led into doing some of the fractional strategy marketing things that you do?
On my 21st birthday, I was selling real estate and I was named the marketing manager of a small real estate firm in Malta.
Hmm.
And so that kind of put me in boardrooms at a pretty young age and having conversations about, websites and graphic design, and the trifold brochure back then was a big deal.
Yeah,
I
it
didn't know it
was.
so much, but yeah. So anyway, it got me, at least into the marketing side of things in a more serious way. And this was
Hmm.
before I was creating content. So, like I said, it was kind of just this meld of experience that eventually I kind of looked and said, boy, I think if somebody came along and hired me, I could probably run their whole marketing department at this point.
Hmm.
Um, but as far as sales go, and obviously the importance of people skills and things like that, it's like the old adage, everybody should wait tables. I started out waiting tables, grew up as a teenager in restaurants, and
Hmm.
it just really, obviously, it forces you to interact with a number of different types of personalities, navigating that, learning how to treat people well and how to make people happy. And I think those are universal skills that, they can't teach that in college, I would say.
Hmm. Yeah, I know. I don't think that they do, but they should. Um, and sometimes, fortunately, right, because that just creates more work for those of us that did grow up in the restaurant business, right?
Right.
So when I'm curious about when you're working with clients, like what is that from a fractional standpoint? Because obviously you have multiple aspects, but from a fractional standpoint, what does it look like for you currently to work with your clients?
Well, I frame up a relationship with one of my fractional clients by starting and saying, I'm the tip of the spear. Okay. So consider me in your C suite, hence
Mhm.
CMO, right?
Yeah.
So I need to be involved in those high level meetings and conversations as much as I can. So we create a communication cadence. And then I talk about the levers, which levers need to be pulled. In some cases, there may be in house marketing folks. Um, in some cases, they have no one in house. So we really start there and then we start to position all those levers and say, okay, who's going to be pulling and pushing this one? And we kind of go down the line and we frame all that up. And just like any plan, you adjust and you revisit the results, and sometimes priorities change. And so, but that's kind of the framework, anyways. I'm right here now. I think the fun thing about having the experience that I do in all these areas, web design, graphic design, photo, video, all of it, right? I can get in and I can pull and push any of those levers at any time. But I
Hmm.
also have, people that work with me kind of part-time, or various teams that I know really sort of shine in this realm. And
Hmm.
so I may allocate in that direction. And that's really, again, that's like the framework entirely.
Yeah.
Mhm.
How do you, when you're looking at what resources in your team or in your network, whether it's through a strategic partner or a 1099 or an employee, like how do you decide on who's going to do what when? Like, what does that typically look like?
Well, I think you have to begin with the end in mind, as always. And, oftentimes that's maybe a yearly goal that we back
Hmm.
into and then start to break that down and say, okay, quarterly goals, things like that. So, starting with those goals, we then go, okay, now having been a professional now for, I'd have to get a calculator out to figure out how long, and an avid networker my entire life.
Yeah.
um, I've established a Rolodex of people that I have a great deal of confidence and a long-term relationship with,
Hmm.
and I really try to know where they shine as creatives. So I'm always meeting creatives. In fact, I've got in the last few months, I've had at least 2 interns. Right? So I love to work with young people and bring them in, and oftentimes there's one aspect of this, ecosystem where they really like to thrive, whether it's the photo side or the video side. And so I try to work with all the people in my network to identify their strengths, help enhance them if I can, in order so that we can feel confident that when I know that I need to work with this person, this is where they shine. I
Mhm.
know that's the person.
So do you focus more on being the conductor than being a member of the orchestra, or do you really kind of just go back and forth depending on what's necessary?
Yeah, a little bit of both. So again, because I can execute just about any of those moving parts on my own, I think that gives me a unique, scope on, I know I can get my hands dirty, so to say, in that. So I'm conducting, and then, in the middle of the song, I'll run around and I'll sit down and I'll play the violin.
Fair enough.
Yep.
When it's needed.
And that's the same thing we just talked about with all these partnerships and strategic, 1099s and things. Sometimes it's me. Sometimes I go, no, this needs to be me. I need to take this and manage this because I know I'm the guy.
Yeah. And yeah, and that's what is that like? What is the litmus test or the filter or the decision making process that you go through to decide like I'm the guy that's actually I'm gonna sell it, I'm gonna be the CMO, and I'm gonna perform this scope as well.
I think it's an instinct,
Okay.
because I've been doing this for so long. I just know that, for instance, sometimes, we get an SOS call, right?
Mhm.
Website's down, things come up like that. And I know that I'm the guy because I have, an hour and I can get it done within that hour. And it just makes
Mhm.
sense. So it's really, and I would love to say it's perfectly templated out, but it's really just kind of my intuition.
Yeah.
And, it works quite well though. I think to your point though, having the proper partnerships and, really identifying who's the key person for that particular lever.
Mhm.
Um, it's just an instinct though, and just years and years of building relationships and trust
Yeah.
with the people that I work with.
Yeah. It's funny where you said like, spur of the moment stuff, like what we call marketing emergencies. And what's really funny is, so we've been doing this about 15 years. I've been in marketing. And I remember for the first 5 years, I don't know why I thought this, but I thought getting into marketing meant that my schedule would be like Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, right? Because I'm working with businesses. I'm like, it's marketing. Like what's going to come up that I need to get phone calls at night and on weekends, right? And then of course, reality was there to smack me in the face and be like, no, no, there are marketing emergencies all the time. Like websites go down, a social media post went out incorrectly, like who knows what can
Mhm.
happen, typo in something, whatever. And it was just like, oh my God, like this was like we had to implement a whole piece of our business that was basically like, the on-call emergency department for marketing. I was like, this is wild,
Yes. Yep.
wild. I'm glad it's not just me, Todd.
No, it's a reality, but these things happen,
Yeah.
at least for now until AI. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to go there.
No, I mean we can go there. It's certainly to be fair, I think that AI is going to be one of the things that pushes a lot of people fractional. Not just because companies are, using AI as an excuse to, cut teams and things like that, but also like it gives the ability to solopreneurs to do a lot more work, right? And
That's exactly right.
a lot of different facets. So that's to me, and again, one of the drivers behind the podcast is like there's going to be a lot of people hitting that fractional market that are like, why am I doing this for one company and not being in control of my destiny? I can go ahead and use Claude or whatever it's going to be to really like increase the amount of time that I can get work done in so that I can handle more work and I can do it without hiring teams, at least in the beginning anyway. I think ultimately, so would you say that like, because when I look at a lot of businesses, but certainly around the fractional side of things, I feel like I see two different kinds of business owner. One kind is like the lifestyle fractional, where they're like, well, realistically, like you said, I'm leaving corporate America. I don't want to work 60 to 80 hours a week anymore. And I know as a fractional, I can either charge 250 bucks an hour for what I do, or I can put people on a subscription model. I can work with five clients. I've got a pretty good lifestyle at that point. Or the other side, there's the kind of folks that they want more than just a handful of clients, and they want to grow a business that operates without them, quote unquote. Would you see you're in one of those camps or a blend of the two, or where are you falling that?
Well, I think it's now been fair to say the better part of 5 years or more where I've really had to evaluate that
Mm-hmm.
closely. And I think I would like to see myself in a situation where I'm more of a business owner than the operator. I think
Mm-hmm.
that sounds neat anyway, but in reality, it's a challenge, right? And certainly it's not an easy one to overcome with marketing, but it with white labeling now being so abundantly available,
Mm-hmm.
I think finding the proper white label partner is the key to this. And I've been on calls with other fractionals that, to your point, said, I just want to be in Europe and, go get leads via ads or through my network and just pass it along. And so you're essentially just selling at that point for a commission, right?
Yeah.
And certainly, I'm sure that works for some people. I have a deep, deep desire to like see things make progress. Like that's what
Mm-hmm.
gets me out of bed every day. So I don't envision myself going fully hands off, but um, yeah, for the better part of 5 years, it's been a real conundrum for me to try to figure out the formula. Definitely still working on that, but things are moving at a lightning speed now, everything, right? With
Yeah.
AI and even before AI, I mean, the world's changing quickly. And so I think it's fair to say we don't really know what this looks like even in 2 years now?
Yeah.
So as much as I'd love to paint a picture and go chase that down, I think just, keeping your values where they need to be and knowing AI makes things cheaper, but it makes trust more valuable.
Mm.
So I think keeping that at the core is mission critical.
Yeah. Yeah, it's funny that you say that too, because I've adopted this term that I now have to say in almost every single conversation when I'm working with clients. And the saying is in our current environment.
Mm.
Because I'm like, because they'll ask me about questions about social media or whatever it is. And I'm like, well, in our current environment, because again, I say that and then 30 days later, something changes and the environment's changed and it's happening. It's always happened quickly. I want to say that I got into marketing in like, I don't know, 2011, 2012, somewhere around there. And then we had, mobile get in 2015. And then in 2018, LinkedIn and Facebook decided to deprioritize business pages for personal pages. And so everybody's, interactions and just fell through the floor. And then, then we move forward. And it's like every time I turn around, there's a mate. And now for the last year and a half, we've been really seeing this AI thing happen, right? And it's like it changes so fast, man. And like what I say today might not be at all correct tomorrow in a different environment. So it's yeah, it's
Well,
wild.
look at YouTube wiping out 60,000 AI channels, overnight. They just wiped them right out. And those were channels that were probably making somebody money, you
A
know?
lot of money. Yeah.
Yeah. So, who could have predicted that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Hard to predict. That's the other thing I say a lot too right now is I'm like, what we're doing right now, we think is gonna work for the next 8 to 12 months.
Hmm.
I like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like, what else do you tell people? I'm like, I have no idea. Like 6 months from now, Claude could have a thing where you literally like say, here's my website, create and execute an entire marketing program for me. Right. And so it's like, and then what happens? So it's wild. What a wild
Well,
time to be alive.
it is. I have another term. I say marketing for the sake of marketing. And I think to some extent, AI maybe could be that side of it, which is, like you said, create me a whole marketing plan. And it's like, okay, but where does that sort of square peg fit into the bigger
Mhm.
scope of things? And I think that's where having a little bit of visionary leadership comes into play. All these tools are just that, they're tools.
Yep.
And you can certainly go have fun and go play with the tools, but it's really got to be strategic and aligned and and coordinated by someone who knows how those levers work, and that you can share what you need to with someone like me that can then execute.
Yeah. Yeah, spot on, right? Like I don't see fractionals being less needed because of any of the emerging technologies right now. If anything, we're going to be more needed because I mean, I know I am. I'm sure you are. I'm sure most fractionals are right now. The one thing we're all doing is staying on the front of what's happening with emerging technologies, right? Part because we're excited by it, part because we're a little worried and scared by it. And like, you know what I mean? Like, it's like, I mean, I know I definitely subscribe to multiple feeds where I'm like, it's like my red alert feed where I'm like waiting for something that's gonna just drop a hammer on me so hard and it's gonna make me have to really make major pivots in my business. I'm like, I know it's gonna happen. I'm also kind of excited about it. We'll see what it's
Mhm.
gonna do. I don't know. It's wild.
Yeah. I think that's a good way to look at it. Because again, I think we may have talked about this on the last time we spoke, but there's clearly going to be a commoditization of human interaction, right? Like where people still need that. We're still, human beings. And so I think just having good relationships, like we talked about the sales skills and being able to know how to serve others and all those really basic things that, maybe aren't quite as abundant as much now, people are going to pay money for. To be able to pick up the phone and have a trusted person answer that can execute on the SOS is a premium.
Yeah. Or even know how to figure it out on what's causing the SOS, right?
Right.
Like, I do feel like, every one of us that's a CMO is in some capacity a bit of a marketing engineer, right? Like, because we've seen so many things break and so many things go wrong over time that it's like our clients typically don't understand how all these things work. That's why they're our clients. And so they're like, I don't know what's going on, but this is happening. Fix it. And then you gotta figure it out.
And I think it's important to talk about why anyone would want to work with a fractional, right?
Yeah.
You think about a salary for a marketing director or a CMO salary, and that's what I'm in competition with.
Hmm.
So take that number and just know that it's possible to have that seat filled and to have an entire team behind that and for a fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
So I love the business model. I think it's just such a mutually beneficial thing to do. Um,
Yeah.
it's just great. I love it.
Do you ever have the conversation with clients of where you're like, hey, I think it's time for you to hire in house?
Yes, that definitely does come up. Again, I think it's, for what purpose? Sometimes it's just boots on the ground, whether it's an intern for the week or for the summer or something like that. It does help. It is a strength to have someone on the inside that my team can kind of consistently count on,
Hmm.
because the wheels need to stay in motion, and sometimes that means we need to be in there somehow. And in some cases, that's me. I'll go right into their office and I'll, you know, talk to whomever I need to and get answers for whatever we need. But
Hmm.
it definitely has come up for sure. But what you're seeing too is a lot of fractionals are deploying this, niche down method where they're saying, I work exclusively with dentists,
Hmm.
lawyers, roofers, you know. I haven't niched myself yet, but I also think I have a great fear around niching.
Yeah, I share your fear, Todd. I do. I mean, like our niche is small local business in a certain geographic footprint. And I don't really move outside of that because our competitive advantage, I'm just another company outside of our geographic area. In our geographic area, we have certain things that nobody else has, like our media offerings and all those things. So it's like, so my niche has always been small business. However, I have considered in the past, like, am I missing out? I see a lot of companies. I see a lot of fractionals that they only work with IT companies. They only work with this company, and it seems to work really well for them. But I don't know. I definitely attach a scarcity mindset when I think about that. I'm like, I don't know, like. I'd have to be national. I wouldn't be able. You can't work with all 7 local IT companies and be their guy, right? Like,
And
is
that
that
it
how it
probably
is
is
for you
upstate
though?
New York. Yeah, that's an upstate New York thing. I'm sure. It's not to say that there isn't an abundant number of dental offices around or something like
Mhm.
that, but the way that I started my business was really, I would never say no. It was, do you do weddings? Of course I do. Do you do families? Sure, I do. And so compound that over a decade. To this day, people will say, hey, do you do headshots? And I say, listen, I really only try to stick with things that you can think of because it's all of it. I do,
Yeah.
I've done at this point products, fashion, headshot. I mean, so I love also the variety. Maybe that kind of makes my creative brain smile. The
Mhm.
variety is the spice of life kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, and then I think that also creates a snowball kind of compounding effect of, oh wow, so you have experience in all these industries as well, because I never say no.
Yeah.
And then as you know, we both love to network, and so something comes up, my client needs something, we've got quite large Rolodex to tap into, and it's like it's a nice place to be in, I think, for this
Yeah.
region. If we were in Orlando or something and wanted to go after HVAC or something, there's probably 1,000 of those, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, we live in such a small community, I guess, Smallbany, that you know, real quick you're gonna be like you're gonna run into an issue. I it actually happened to me one time years ago. I think I was working with 4 or 5 cleaning companies in our area. And like I was transparent about it. So every time one of them we'd be going through the sales cycle, I'd be like, "Hey, I just want to let you know, like I work with this company and this company and this company, and I can promise that there'll be no disclosure, there'll be no taking what they're doing and, adopting it, like we don't I had different people that work on each account, like but it was like it was a challenge to make sure because every once in a while I'd have one team member posting for this company and another team member doing things for this other company, and they would do similar things. And I'd be like, "Oh my god, they're gonna think I'm doing something shady." Like I'm like, "You gotta change that immediately. You can't do that." Like,
Well, I've lost clients too to the niched down companies. I
yeah,
think they do a really good job of spending a lot of money advertising to those specific sectors.
yeah,
And I guess it's, if you think about it, it's just kind of a better hook, right? If you're a plumber and something comes in front of you that says we do marketing for plumbers, I mean that's a resonance immediately, right?
yeah.
So,
It's definitely happened to me a few times over the years as well,
mhm,
for sure. And I'm like, "No, I get it."
mhm.
My argument is always that, like, that means that your stuff is gonna look like everybody else's in your industry, but I don't know.
Yep. It all comes
Maybe
back to whatever your goals are, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it does.
Mhm.
So, let's switch back to sales for a little bit because, like, as we said in the beginning, I think that people coming into a fractional operator scenario where they're gonna be a solopreneur, at least in the beginning, and maybe they're gonna grow and scale later. But for most of us, we're not stepping into a ready-made business. We're the show, right? And we're selling it, we're doing it, we're invoicing it, we're chasing the money to get those invoices paid, and we're the chief cook and bottle washer. Can We touched on the importance of being able to sell, but I'd like to dig into that a little bit more so that these folks are a little more eyes wide open as far as what it takes to like you can be great at the thing, but if you can't sell the thing and find new clients, you're going to be in big trouble, right?
Well, this is a conundrum for every business owner, right? And being a fractional or a solopreneur is certainly no different. Um, and again, I'm on calls with others from around the country, and we have conversations about this. A lot of them choose a meta ads campaign model and really focus on a targeted message and great content, and that works for them.
Mhm.
Some people say it's got to be networking. It's networking. It's networking. I'm a big fan of networking. It's been my single biggest result that I've seen in growing my business.
Mhm.
But there's really no silver bullet. I think. Um, Each and every step of selling is important as the last, right? I mean, if you have an ad that you come across and somebody reaches out to you, you've got to be able to execute on the next steps there and do it well.
Yeah.
And having been in direct sales in my life, I think that's been a nice little strength for me, but not everybody's got that type of experience. So
Hmm.
it's really about, educating yourself on all of those different moving parts and steps along the process and not being afraid to grow yourself because that's what being a solopreneur is all about.
Yeah. I Let me get your read on this, because one of the things that I say often, especially to solo operators, is in the beginning, you've got one of two choices. You can either go out there and learn how to be a salesperson and do the networking and talk to strangers and be uncomfortable and have the sweaty palms and and all the things that you go through. You can either do that, or you can spend a lot of money on marketing. And like, I mean, obviously you can do a blend of both, but and for most people, they don't have that big marketing budget of 3 to 5 grand or whatever it's going to be out of the gate. And so I'm always like, hey, do me a favor. Cause I probably have this conversation a dozen times a year where there's someone coming to me, they're launching a new business, whether it's a new fitness center or a fractional consultancy or whatever it is. And they're like, hey, I need marketing. And I'm always like, no, you don't. And I remember one certain guy came to me, and this was like maybe 2 years ago, and he was a personal trainer, needed personal trainer clients, and he had a physical location, and he's like, I need marketing, and I was like, no, you don't. I'm like, what you need to do is you need to stick a pin in your location and look at a map within 15 minutes of that location, and you need to go talk to everybody in that circle physically and tell them who you are and what they do and tell them when to come down and how to get involved. And like, you need to network. And then, because to me, and maybe this is a wrong approach, Todd, maybe it's bad advice, but I just have always felt that spending money on marketing is what you do in order to scale your efforts, and it shouldn't be your first thing. It should be the thing that once you have so many clients that you can no longer talk to every person in that circle on a regular basis, you need to start figuring out how to scale those efforts, and it can only come through either A, hiring someone to do it for you, or B, effective marketing that helps get you in front of all those people within that circle. Is that fair? Am I out of line with that?
You're 100% spot on. And some of the larger sales companies that I know of are still deploying old fashioned door knocking. You know, I think there's an irony to the world today, and it's that more and more, as things become more complex and technical and artificial,
Mm-hmm.
there's a void there's a need for people to connect with people, and they're not afraid to do that. It's how we've always done things for as long as human beings were around. And even down to one of the best ways to maybe still go out and get out there may not be to give Meta $5,000, but maybe it's an email campaign.
Mm-hmm.
And even that I consider a little bit old school now, but it is a very effective way to kind of do the same thing for far less cost.
Yeah.
So if I was to say, give Meta $3,000 or go knock doors this week, it's like I'm sort of paying myself $3,000 to go knock doors. You
Yeah.
know?
Right.
So it's definitely an interesting thing. And yes, people have that instinct. They say, I need marketing. And that's where I say, this is marketing for the sake of marketing. Let's
Yeah.
market for the sake of your needs and goals and wishes and desires.
Yeah. And what's going to work and what you can afford and what's going to give you a return on investment. Cause I'm sure you've seen it. Every time I work with a solo operator or a very small business owner, the expectation, even though I try to like manage the expectation and be transparent and help them understand like marketing is a marathon, not a sprint. But even still, the minute they write a check, they expect the phone to ring the next day, right? And I'm like, hey, we've got a plan. It's going to take this amount of time in order for us to start seeing that return. And at like to your point, if you can't afford to wait that time, then maybe just go knock on some doors.
Right.
I still love a good door hanger. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
But for certain industries, I like, especially like home services, I love door hangers, man. I think that door hangers and yard signs. It's like it's the
Yeah.
easiest thing, man. It's the easiest
For
thing.
sure, especially depending on your industry, but yeah, no, I mean, that's all good points there, and I think, at least for me and how I market myself, which I do very much sort of behind the scenes. It's very much relationship based. I don't run ads.
Yeah.
I don't cold call. I don't do a lot of cold outreach. I really try to really have it be almost conversational to where it's been revealed to me that there would be a value in this type of relationship, and then I bring it up.
I love it.
Yeah.
So not the pitchy, not the pushy sales stuff, which again, I think it's interesting because one of our team members, Kelsey, you've met Kelsey. So Kelsey is starting to get more involved on the discovery calls and kind of really, she's taking over the sales process for a certain aspect of our business. However, like she was very reticent about it. And I was like, Kels, I'm like, I am not like her idea of salespeople was that, the idea that everybody has about salespeople. I was like, no, no, no. I'm like, that is not how we do it. Like, we have a conversation with people. It's a two-way street. At the end of that conversation, they understand what we do. They understand how we do it. They understand our price range or roughly what they'd be spending with us. And then we let them make the decision. Like there's no moves. There's no there's nothing going on here. Cause that was one thing she'd said to me. She's like, I don't think I have the like sales skills that you have. And I was like, Kelsey, I don't have sales skills. I just communicate with people. And then I literally let them decide. Like it's
Yeah.
it's pretty easy.
And it turns out listening is 80% of sales,
Yeah.
And the old adage of the used pushy car salesperson, let's define that for a second. In my mind, the thing that characterized that type of salesperson is they didn't have the discovery part, right? It's almost like they didn't care what you really needed or wanted. It's just they jump that and go right to, well, have you seen this and that, right? And so
Yeah.
the fact that you're even doing a discovery is sort of in and of itself a lot less salesy already, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, how can you help someone if you don't discover who they are and what they do and what they're about and.
Hmm.
So, Todd, I know that we're getting shorter on time, but one thing I wanted to ask you was, or talk to you about, was the power of the pivot as a small business owner, right? So you mentioned you've been doing this roughly 12 years, and how has your business changed in the last 12 years?
I started again with primarily photography. Um, Quickly recognized that there was a case to be made that I should probably incorporate video, and I had some experience in it.
Hmm.
So that was my first kind of big leap because now I'm essentially offering, services that are in the same ecosystem, and it really made my company grow. But then I was up against this sort of internal battle where I needed to evaluate my pricing structure.
Mm.
I felt like, based on the years and the investments in equipment and all the things, that it was probably time to raise my prices. And the primary reason that became apparent was I actually had a client who took me aside and said, raise your prices. And I was like, I'm scared. I don't know what if, oh my God. And they were relentless about it. And he said, raise your prices and watch and see. And I think the following year, I believe I doubled my revenue. So, there are formulae to that, raise your prices 10%. It actually equates to a larger, and all these sorts of things. But I don't raise my prices without really feeling confident in doing that because for me, it's a struggle. It's like a big deal for me to ask people to pay me and want to feel like I'm bringing the value. But that level of confidence that I was given from that client really gave me what I needed to say, yeah, I think the world can support this and there's still value there.
Hmm.
So that was a big morphing for me. But I would say at this stage of the game, I really love doing the fractional stuff. Really, really interested in expanding that and continuing to learn. And again, my wake up in the morning and my reason and my why is really just loving the process of seeing things make progress.
Mhm.
Oftentimes, clients will come to me with essentially a blank sheet of paper. I don't know what I don't know. I don't know what I need. I don't know what I want. Right. And I'm like, perfect. I'm your guy.
Yeah.
So I love that mapping things out and then executing.
Do you think on the well, first of all, I wanna ask about when you were doing photo, and I can imagine how it happened, right? You're working a project for someone and they're like, "Hey, can you do video? Can you do this?"
Hmm.
And like most of us entrepreneurs, right? Like, yeah, I can, even
Mm.
though you may have no idea how to do it, right? So you're like, well, in my mind, I'm thinking maybe I don't really know how to do it, but I'm gonna figure it out and I'm gonna make it great, right? Um, it were you terrified when you started to add on different things that people were asking you to do?
The only thing that terrified me was that I knew by stepping into this world, the video side as well, that I was staring down another monster investment. And I had just gone and, for years and years, I had upgraded cameras, upgraded lenses, got all the photography lighting. But as soon as that switch flipped and I introduced video, I said, oh boy, now we need gimbals. Now we need more video. We need video lights. We need, new
Yeah.
tripods. And that was my only fear because um, I actually did have experience in video, actually from high school. I was fortunate enough to be part of a first year media arts class in my school and did a ton of video stuff, won some awards with it. And I think that's why I love working with young people, college age kids now too. It's just they're so passionate, and that's what's
Mhm.
driven me the whole time. I'm just still that, high school kid who loves to make stuff.
Yep. Love it. All right, last question for you. So recently, it's interesting because our businesses have been very similar over the years. We offer some similar things, and we do similar service, albeit like I have told people for years now since I met you realistically, when if they're asking us about photo or video, I'm like, well, we can do it. If you like mediocre photo video, we can certainly do it. But if you want it to be great, you need to call Todd. But then just recently though, I it's a hard no from me now. Where when people are asking us to do certain things, I'm like, you know what? No, I can't do that. I want you to call Todd. And there's a couple different things that we do now that we, because for years, for most of the last 15 years, we've tried to be everything we could and say yes to everything we could. And it had some benefits and, certainly produces revenue, but it also produces scalability problems. And so as we are focusing on scalability right now and being better at what we do, and I realized I had to start saying no. That the path to scalability for us was saying no to some things, right? And so like photo video right now, people ask us about it. I'm like, call Todd. He's the guy. I'm just wondering because again, similar paths for our businesses over the years. Are there any things that you're saying no to now? Are you still saying yes to everything?
Well, I think what you just described is like almost a graduation in business ownership. It's the opportunity to say no, right? That you kind of it comes with time and experience and you earn that. And I would say there's been a few instances where I've said no, but it's not often.
Mhm.
Um because I'm still in a healthy enough place where I can still go shoot a wedding.
Yep.
And I don't do many of them anymore. I primarily morphed a little bit more towards the corporate work.
Yep.
But I love doing weddings, so, why would I not? And I meet new people and that grows my network. And so
Yep.
I still look at it all like it's all good. It's another opportunity to expand my network and meet who knows who. And I love doing that. And just being in the rooms, different types of rooms for different reasons. It's like,
Yep.
it's a big priority for me.
Yeah, and I definitely don't wanna make it sound like saying no is like a badge of honor or anything like that. Because I do know that, like, I have met companies over the year that tried to be too specific too soon, and so they said no to all types of shit, and then they found out they had no business, right? So I don't wanna make it sound like it's a great thing, but for me, it was just finding out that like, here's what we do and we're really good at it, right? Like when it comes to building websites, like Kelsey and the team, I think are second to none. They are amazing, right? And when it comes to some of the more technical stuff that we do, Jeremy and Christian are amazing and they can figure anything out and make it work and do what they do. And when it came to like photo, video, and like even social media, like I am pretty much saying no to it now at this point because it's just not what we're great at. Doesn't have the impact for our clients that they want it to have. And so it's become this thing. But it's been very helpful saying no in those circumstances and being able to like pull you in on a photo project or something with one of our clients. So I'm just curious what your thoughts were on that, but
Well, I think no is not really what you're saying. I think you're just saying yes and also go talk to Todd, right?
yeah, yeah, there's
Um,
a much better resource for this.
yeah, and that's essentially like what a fractional CMO does in my mind, you know?
Yeah.
Um, so you're sort of uh, sitting in a similar situation. You're just looking at a lever and saying, "Do we pull that lever, or does Todd pull that lever?"
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Todd. I
Yeah.
actually hadn't thought about it that way. Yeah. Well, thank you. I feel better now about that.
Yes. Yes opens potential.
Yes, opens potential. All right. So, one more thing. Any recent major changes in your business based on emerging technologies, anything that you're doing now or looking at doing that you haven't done in the past?
I do think that I'm seeing a turnaround time on things that I don't think 2 years ago, if you would have said, "Can you design this, prepare it for the printer, and have it out the door in a week?" I would have said, "Probably, yeah, I gotta get with a graphic designer and who's gonna do it and all that." Where I am seeing now, just with some really basic AI tools and understanding prompts
Mhm.
and how to use the AI, it's now the thing takes 20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's such an exponential time save that it's almost like the question is now, what do you do with all that extra time or the saved expense there? I think it's something that universally we all collectively are gonna just have to get our heads around, and I don't know what the answer is, but just AI has been doing wonders for me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting you say that because we obviously have a very, again, not to plug our software, but our software is very good at tracking everything, right? So I like have great intelligence on our business and what's going on all the time. And we have been watching our billable hours go down because we're so much faster at stuff, which clients love because they're spending less money, like, and but I also love it. Like for the last 10 years, roughly speaking, is about how long we've actually been doing the like CMO work. It used to be outsourced marketing department. Now it's fractional CMO. Um, and I always loved strategy, but hated the documentation part that I had to do for strategy. So like, I mean, I can come up. Here's the things we got to do marketing wise, but then you got to document them on paper and you got to get it all so that you can share it. But now AI, like it used to take me weeks. Now it takes me an hour. Like
I was talking to another fractional that's national. They're quite large, and they serve small fractionals like me. So I would say white label, I should say. And he was telling me he had read some book that was like, check in every 15 minutes with yourself on what you're doing.
hmm
And he had AI develop some code and literally build a direct add-on to his Google Chrome or whatever. And every 15 minutes, it'll prompt him and he checks in, and that's feeding directly into a spreadsheet. And, he like developed a little bit of a piece of software around that,
Yeah.
So for creatives like us, I think it's opening the doors so wide that it takes a human to help narrow this all down a little bit.
Yeah.
So my other favorite saying is everything's possible today, and that's great news. And the bad news is everything's possible today. So
Yeah.
just helping people get that narrowed down in a plan, and it's a lot of fun.
That's perfect. That's the perfect place to end, Todd. Well, I
Well,
know
thank you.
I'll keep you going all day here. Todd, if people want to learn more about who you are, what you're doing, how you help businesses and people, where can they find you?
I'm on all the socials, Todd Bailey, and my website is tbphotopix.com.
Okay, perfect. Todd, it's great to see your face, man. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate it.
Always. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, of course, everybody for listening. Again, you can find all the episodes as they come out. You can find them at hourglasssaas.com. That's hourglass, SaaS, as in software as a service.com. You can watch, listen on Spotify, YouTube, Apple, I think even Rumble. And of course, check out our blog and check out if you feel like getting a weekly email from us that has a bunch of curated content for fractionals by fractionals. Go ahead and go to our website and you can sign up for that newsletter. That's what we're sending out each week. It's not a spam, it's not a sales, it's just us trying to get information from around the internet into your inbox. So check it out. Please subscribe. Thanks, everybody. Todd, thanks again.
Thank you.